much damage can Sunspine Lynx and Dragonhawk deal to our opponents on just a 14 rare budget in Bloomburrow Standard? That's what we're going to find out today. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition, our first Bloomburrow Standard Edition of Budget Magic, and we have a super fun one today. We are built around one of the cards I'm most hyped about from the entire set, even though that card's probably going to kill me a lot in Commander, and that is Sunspine Lynx. We are playing a deck, I guess it's Lynx Red or Big Red, a different take on a mono red deck. Normally when you think of mono red, you think a bunch of 1-drops and 2-drops, all these super cheap hasty creatures, some burn to back it up. We're kind of going the other direction, where we're actually trying to ramp into 4-drops and 5-drops and even 6-drops in our deck, and trusting that the power of these cards is going to lead us to victory. So let's talk about our deck really quick, jump into some games, and see Sunspine Lynx and also Dragonhawk and some other new cards in action. So the idea of this deck is pretty simple. We are built around really two new additions from Bloomburrow itself. The big one, as I mentioned before, Sunspine Lynx, and I absolutely love this card. 4 mana 5/4, so good stats. Players can't gain life, exactly what you want in mono red. Damage can't be prevented. I don't know how relevant that is in standard, but I guess it could come up in some situations. And then most importantly, when it enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So our mana base, 24 mountains, is simple and as clean as possible. So we're always taking 0 from Sunspine Lynx. Our opponent, on the other hand, could be taking 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, depending on where in the game we are. Probably on average it's going to be like 4 damage, 3 damage. It really does depend on the matchup. Against like 3 color decks up to 5 color decks, it's going to be absurd because pretty much all of our opponent's lands are going to be non-basics. So this is just going to deal an insane amount of damage. In other matchups, obviously our opponent could be a mono-color deck, and then it's not going to deal that much damage. But the big upside of this card is its body is really good. Unlike Price of Progress, which it kind of calls back to, Price of Progress, if your opponent's playing all basic lands, it's a literal dead card. It does nothing because it's a spell. Sunspine Lynx, you get an above the curve body no matter what. Even if it deals 0 damage, you still get a 4 mana 5/4 that can like beat down through a Shieldred or whatever. So really excited about Sunspine Lynx. The other big new card, Dragonhawk Fate's Tempest. 5 mana 5/5 flyer. When it enters or attacks, exile top X cards to your library, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. We have Dragonhawk, we have Sunspine Lynx, we have Tyranic Outrageous, we got Grabby Giant, so we do have several creatures with power 4 or greater. And then we can play those cards until the end of turn. If we don't play them, it deals 2 damage for each card in exile on our end step. So in our dream world with this deck, we want to ramp on turn 2 with Brazen Collector, another new card. If it attacks, it makes a mana that sticks around for the turn. Charming Scoundrel ramps us on turn 2. Grabby Giant ramps us with a treasure on turn 2. So ramp on turn 2. Turn 3, get down Sunspine Lynx, hit our opponent for some damage, get down this big body. Turn 4, ramp into the Dragonhawk. It's going to come down. It's going to exile 2 cards. It's 4 more damage if we don't cast those cards, and that might be enough to just kill our opponent pretty much by itself. So those are the 2 key cards of the deck. Otherwise, I imagine we got a bunch of ramp just to speed into our bigger things. Gonna be curious to see how good Brazen Collector is. This one I was on the fence about. Unlike Charming Scoundrel or Grabby Giant, which make treasures, this needs to attack, and when it does attack, it makes a mana that sticks around for the rest of the turn. The upside is it's a 2/1 first striker, so it seems like a decent blocker against aggro. The other big new card, Blooming Blast. So this is our new like Searing Blaze effect. 2 damage to a creature, you can gift a treasure if you do 3 damage to your opponent's face. So a way we can snipe a cheap creature and throw some damage at our opponent's face. And that's essentially the deck, trying to ride Sunspine Lynx and Dragonhawk in Friends to victory. So let's jump into some games and see just how good Sunspine Lynx really is, just how good Dragonhawk really is. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Today's video is brought to you by Marvel Snap. Celebrate the release of Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine in theaters by playing the new Deadpool theme season of Marvel Snap. There's a ton of upcoming events, including Deadpool login rewards between July 26th and August 4th, a Refer a Friend event, and even Twitch drops. Play the new game mode Deadpool's Diner, where cubes are replaced by bubs, named after Deadpool's best friend Wolverine. Earn up to 32 different rewards, including the new Cassandra Nova card. And check out the new Alliance feature, bringing new social features to make teamwork even more rewarding. In Leagues, limited time events where you're matched into groups of 30 players to compete in a short-term leaderboard for prizes. And if you're a collector at heart, Marvel Snap has you covered. They've partnered with over 300 artists to create over 2,000 unique card art variants to play with. So download Marvel Snap today by using the download link in the description down below. Budget magic time! It is new standard time, and we're playing some Sunspine Links. We're playing some budget, I guess it's Big Red. Basically, a very weird, not super aggro take on Red. That's got a bunch of these super huge haymakers that hopefully gonna just burn our opponent out of the game, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see if Sunspine Links. I have high hopes that Sunspine Links is really good, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. See what our opponent's up to. Hopefully something with lots of colors of mana. I mean, our deck is very this hand is very good at punishing players for playing non-basics. Like, very good at punishing it. Furnace Punisher into the Links. No ramp, unfortunately, but alright, well, mounting you. Opponent, Raccoon Theater. Alright, that's good. That is a non-basic. That's what we wanted to see. We'll play the land, and I guess we just Ren's Resolve. Alright, well, we'll see. The Blooming Blast may or may not be good. Opponent, Collector's Waldo. They're probably playing some sort of Reanimator deck. Well, let's play the Furnace Punisher past the turn. So opponent needs 2 or more basics to avoid the punishment. Opponent, Sulphurous Springs. Furnace Punisher hits ya. Opponent, I'm gonna do a little looting. Discards Collector's Vault and go for the throw on the Punisher. Sure. Well, I mean, we'll just play a mountain, play the Links, hit you for 2, get down to 5-4. 2 damage ETB. Yeah, that's not going to do much against this hand. That's not going to do much against this hand. Opponent finds a Fabled Passage, which is pretty big for them because Fabled Passage does let them get a basic, which is kind of what they need here. I mean, Sunspine Links, the stats are good enough that even if it deals 2, I think it's kind of fine. Opponent, Mountain. Nothing big to reanimate yet, right? A Legion Extruder. We draw a Ren's Resolve. Well, get in, hit ya. Down to 11. Play the land. Play the Dragon Hawk. Exile 2. Not gonna play him. End of turn. 4 to the face. And opponent's down to 7. And opponent needs something really big. The damage is stacking up. The damage is stacking up. The Sphinx into the Dragon Hawk. That is exactly how we drew this up. That is essentially the game plan of the deck. Ideally, our opponent would have even more non-basics and be even more brutal, but... So what's the worst case? Our opponent has, like, Deadly cover-up, wrasts our board, takes the Links from our hand, and then we still have Furnace Punisher into Ren's Resolve. Opponent. Main phase loop. And scoops it up, and that was pretty good. That was really good. That was not even, like, max damage mode, or, like, no ramp into our big stuff, but Dragon Harker dealt 4. And it would deal at least 4 again this next turn, maybe 6. Links dealt 2 with its ETB, and then also got in for 5. Budget magic time. We are playing some new standard with a super budgety Big Red, I guess. Playing some Sunspine Links. Hello, opponent. Player land drop. There we go. Concealed Caves of Koilos, eh? So opponent Orzhov. This hand is fine. We don't have any of our big top end stuff, but opponent. Ooh, land on bat. There's a Sunspine Links. That I do like. So if we play Brazen Collector and it dies, let's just pass. Let's just pass and we can grab E-Giant. The good news is our opponent seems to be stacking up some non-basics. Okay, there's a basic opponent. So the longer we can wait on the Sunspine Links, the better, although bats do have life gain synergies. Unfortunately, we can't Booming Blast away a Zoraline. Well, let's make a treasure. I think we just have to Furnace Punisher here. The odds of our opponent having removal pretty high, so I think we need to bait out a removal spell before we play the Sunspine Links. All right, opponent. Bitter Triumph. Yup. Well, there's removal spell. Drops to 15. Opponent planes. And I'm gonna get in and gain a life. Down to 17. Well, play the Mountain. We could just Grabby Giant. Yeah, let's run out the Grabby Giant. We're gonna try to bait out one more removal spell. One more. And then stick the Sunspine Links to hopefully shut down our opponent's deck. All right, another non-basic. That's good. So in this attack, our opponent can... Wow, they're gonna double Bob. Okay, this is gonna get interesting. Gets in with his Arlie. Sneaky reach. And then we will Sunspine Links. Burn you. Play the land. Booming Blast. I think we give our opponent the treasure. Kill the Dark Star Augur. Hit you to 11. Oh! That doesn't work that way. Oops. Should have hit the token. Okay, that's not a Searing Blaze. It's worse. It only deals 2 damage. Okay, that's good to know. We call it a Searing Blaze, but really it's not. Opponent, cut down. And a land. Opponent, land on bat. Treasure token's kinda cool. I haven't seen the Raccoon treasure token before. Lynx does seem good against our opponent's deck if it stays alive. Another Bitter Triumph. Ugh, alright. Okay, Skyclave Cape Cleric makes another bat. Well, we will Charming Scoundrel. Loot away the Mountain. Ren's Resolve. Play a land. Get in with the Charming Scoundrel. I guess we just pass and hope our opponent spins some high mana value stuff here. Oh! Bobbed him! We bobbed him! Overcoming the punt. That's an Ecclesotz. However, this time we will do this correctly. And then you? Oh! Opponent's gonna cast Cut Down, but it doesn't matter. Wow! That was the full gamut of emotions. Blooming Blast. 2 damage. Only 2 damage. That was a PS. I knew that the whole time. I just wanted to make sure you all knew, you know? So that wasn't really a pun. It was a PSA to make sure everyone knew it. It's not really Searing Blaze. It's only 2 damage. And then we got to see Dark Confidant Bat be super lethal to our opponent. And then in the end, the Booming Blast managed to close out the game anyway. Well, that was interesting. Budget Magic time. We are playing some new Standard. We are doing some Sunspine Linksing, playing some budget Big Red, trying to punish our opponents for their super greedy mana bases. The stand actually seems kind of fine. I mean, we can turn 2 Scoundrel Treasure, turn 3 Furnish Punisher, turn 4 Dragonhawk. We're only gonna have 1 4-power creature, but still. Opponent, doing a little mulliganing. Let's see if they're actually rabbits. They have the rabbit avatar. And that's not the default one, which means I actually took the time to do it. Well, Charming Scoundrel. And make a treasure. Valley Might Caller is kind of busted. Opponent. Paw Patch Recruiter. And a tap land gets in for a 1. I'll play a land. Furnace Punisher. Down to 18. Punish ya. Down to 16. If we get a chance to trade with the Might Caller, we probably have to. Opponent. Phineas. I think we just take it. We'll take the 3. This Furnace Punisher is doing some work. Play the land. Play Dragonhawk. Exile a card. Get in with the Furnace Punisher. It has Menace, so our opponent would have to trade both. Hit you for 2 with the Dragonhawk. Hit you for 2 with the Furnace Punisher. Opponent's down to 9. They're down to 9. Are we going to beat a Valley Might Caller? I didn't know that was possible. I mean, opponent needs some removals. Valley Quest Caller, that's not removal. It does pump their dorks. And a Oak Hollow Village. And a Burrowguard Mentor. I mean, I think this is fine, though, because we don't die. And that's all that matters. As long as we don't die, I believe nothing has reach, right? Oh my god, Phineas has reach. Does that change things? That might change things. Opponent's going to go attacking. I think we take the beats down to 10. Dragon Hawker. Exile a land. Not very helpful. Opponent's got to block with the Phineas. Yep, so opponent blocks. Well, we'll play a Furnace Punisher. And a Mountain. And hit ya, and hit ya, and hit ya. Do we survive this turn, though, is the question. A Johnny Sleeper Agent. So it can put 3 counters on creatures. Does this make us die? So if we block, 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 we live, right? Oh, this has trample too? Oh, we don't live. Wow, that's wild. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Trying to Sphinx people in New Standard, playing some budget big red with dragon birds and sphinxes. This hand's actually kind of cute. We got double Grabby Giant to make some treasures to hopefully ramp us mice. Probably mice. People seem hype about mice. Like, yeah, it's mice. Well, play the land and pass the turn. Opponent. So we can make a treasure this turn, and then I guess we decide we can route the Grabby Giant. We could save the treasure to try to get to this Tyrant quicker. Ember Heart Challenger. That's a good one. Gets and hits us. Well, let's make the treasure. Drop to 17. Draw another mountain. Well, play the land, and I mean, I think we have to run out the Grabby Giant, so at least we have a blocker. Has reach for some reason. Reach is getting weirder and weirder in Magic. The turtle with, like, shooting flowers out of its back, having reach. How does Grabby Giant? It just literally reaches up in the sky and grabs a flyer? Is that the theme? Raging Battle Mouse into land, and do we have the 1-drop to trigger our things? I mean, I think mice are going to be very good aggro deck. Oh boy, that is actually like the worst case scenario here. Monstrous Rage. Grows the mouse, and then pumps. Well, I mean, we get to kill this, though, right? We take some damage, but we do get to kill it. We drop to 10, which is not great, although... All right. We get a Lynx. We hit you for 2. We get a big blocker. Hopefully this 5/4 can stabilize us. I mean, that's the upside of Lynx, right? The body's good. The body's very good. It even gets through Sheoldred. Plains. And Whisker Veil Forerunner. And passes. Well, let's... Ren's Resolve, see what we hit. Play the land. Charming Scoundrel. Make a treasure token. And, yeah, we gotta stay on defense. This Forerunner is scary. This can put things into play from the library. We should be able to kill it next turn with the Tyrant. We'll see how much it pops off here. It is only once per turn, thankfully, but still. Our creatures are bigger, but our opponent just has a lot of them and a lot of synergy. Found it. Make it. Needs painful red mana. Mabel. Okay. Pumps their mice. And Ember Heart Challenger. Alright, they're going to trigger the Swordmaster to grow their dorks. Goes on the big attack, and I think we might just be dead. So we can kill the Forerunner, and then we have to chump this, and we take 8. Yeah. Wow, that was a pretty explosive mouse turn there. So we get to untap. Furnace Punisher's not going to do it. We can play the Tyrant, but we still die. Yep. Well, we got moused. We are playing some New Standard. We're playing some big red, some mono red Sunspire? The Lynx, whatever the Lynx is called. Mono red Lynx. And also Bird Dragon thing. Ramping into these big mommy red creatures. This hand has a lot of weird ramp, although it doesn't have any of the big payoffs, really. I guess Grabby Giant's kind of big, and it's got reach. Opponent, land on Lizard, and Iridescent Vine Lash. Well, we'll play a land, and I think we just Brazen Collector. The downside of this is our opponent can play a land, and then they can play the silly... Well, maybe not. Get in with a Brazen Collector. Let's play Furnace Punisher. Let's stay aggro. My concern is the Burning Tree Emissary thing. Iridescent Vine Lash works really well with the Burning Tree Emissary Lizard. You play a land, that's the damage, then you dump your hand of all of them. Little concerned about that, but I don't think we can just choose to do nothing here. So opponent pings us, crimes us, takes some damage from the Punisher down to 16. And more Fable Passages. Well, that's going to let them play around the Furnace Punisher. Give. Opponent passing. We draw a land, which is nice. This has what? Ward 2 life. All right, so play the Mountain. We will play another Brazen Collector. We are going to kill the Gev. All right, so Blast, give you the treasure. Take the 2. Kill it, hit you to 8. Opponent gets the Mountain, pings us. Brazen Collector's been really good this game. Opponent did manage to get around the Furnace Punisher, getting the second basic. Let's see what you got. Another Gev. Yup. And a Hired Claw. Alright, comes in with a counter. Oh, they're gonna kill it? Alright, so they get in for 1, they cut down, that's fine. We draw a Mountain, so play the Mountain. So if we attack with both, our opponent can block here for free and take 3. If we attack with just Furnace Punisher, I think we just attack with the Furnace Punisher. Opponent takes it. I think we blast it. Give him the treasure. Yeah. Pay the 2 life. Hit you to 2. Pass the turn. Oh, that basic land is saving our opponent here. We need 2 points of damage. 2 points of damage. Can the lizards beat the raccoons? What a world we live in this standard. Vine Lash has felt okay for our opponent here. Hired Claw. I mean, they did draw double Gev, I guess, which has made them a little bit better. Opponent. Laughing Jasper Flint. Sure. Passing. Well, we will make a treasure. Well, that's actually pretty good. Pretty good. You know what card is kind of ridiculous? That is Blooming Blast. So, opponent, you get a treasure. We will target you and kill you, and yeah, I guess that was pretty fun. Well, that's not exactly how we drew it up. We didn't actually cast any Sphinxes, any Dragon Birds, none of those at all, but Blooming Blast actually kind of absurd there. Like, yes, we gave our opponents treasures. One of the times they actually were able to cut down off of the treasure we gave them, so there is a cost to giving the gift, but we killed, what, 2 creatures? Could have killed a 3rd here if we wanted to, and dealt 9 damage to our opponent's face, which is pretty much why we won. Like, we chipped in for some raccoon damage and got a Furnace Punisher trigger, but Blooming Blast, so good. Bloomburrow standard. We're playing some big red, some Dragonhawk Sphinx red in new standard, and this hand seems fine. A little bit on the land heavy side, but opponent Fabled Passage. We'll play the land and run out the Brazen Collector. Grabs a Mountain. Sure. Opponent Botanical Sanctum and Thorn Vault Forager. Well, go to combat. Get in with the Collector. Make a mana. And play the land. Question here is, do we give a treasure? You know what? I think we're gonna no treasure this time. Let's just kill the squirrel. Kill the squirrel, pass the turn. A little worried with them playing like mana dorks and so forth that they're actually a ramp deck. Opponent Island. Well, it's gonna make they are a ramp deck. Gonna make the Furnace Punisher a little worse. Well, now we might actually just let it go. I think we just get in with the Brazen Collector, play a land, play the Dragonhawk, exile a land, hit you for 2, down to 14. Yeah, opponent's gonna have too many basics here. Another Forager, and a Legion Extruder. Gonna kill the Collector, sure. Well, another Mountain. Well, we'll get him for 5. Exile. Sunspire Lynx, okay. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna play it. Lynx ya, hit ya. Play the land. Pass the turn. Opponent down to 8. We have the team. I mean, these are the 2 payoffs. This is the reason we're playing the deck. Sunspine, Lynx, Dragonhawk. Sadly, Sunspine. I mean, the thing is the ceiling's just super high, or the floor is just super high, right? We only got 1 damage out of it, but it's a 5/4 with a bunch of other text on it. So I think it's still pretty good, even when it's not anywhere near the ceiling, which is what we're seeing here. The dream is there's going to be times when it's hitting for 5 damage or 7 damage or whatever. Opponent. And Might Stone and Weak Stone. Well, the problem for our opponent is we actually just have another Dragonhawk in hand. And an Esoteric Duplicator. But I think this is just too slow, right? Because we get to get in with the Sphinx, hit ya. And then Dragonhawk number 2. Exile 2 cards. And we'll just pass. And GG to you, and GG to you. And that's the big red dream. Wow, opponent's deck looks sweet. I do love Esoteric Duplicators. So it seems like our opponent was trying to get ooh, wait a minute. Heaped Harvest with Duplicator is actually super spicy. That's actually super cool. We might have to revisit some Duplicator action. The fact that this is an artifact that sacks itself that you can copy, and it's gonna ramp every time you do it, you can probably get all the lands out. Oh yeah, there's definitely some synergy here. I like what our opponent's trying to do with their deck. We might have to try to brew this in the future, but for now, Sunspine Legs, Dragonhawk, come through. All right, budget magic time. We are playing some big red in Bloomburrow Standard, trying to kill people with Sunspine Lynxes and Dragonhawks, all on just a 14 rare budget. Opponent, Blooming Marsh and Rebel Belt Maverick. So I assume our opponent's probably a Roots deck. Usually that's the only deck that's going to play Rebel Belt Maverick. I don't know, maybe there could be another graveyard deck. Hopefully it means a lot of non-basics. It's going to be interesting. I'm very curious. I feel like Lynx is a card that would be... Yeah, let's just Raccoon. I feel like Lynx is a card that would be absurd in our past Standard. How good is it going to be in post-rotation Standard? Also, how good is Brazen Collector? Scavenger's Talent. Sure. And a Concealed Courtyard. Well, go to combat. Get it. Make a mana. We're going to do a little blocking. That is fine. Opponent gets a food. Sure. But we get to ramp out a Sunspine Legs. Turn 3. Hit you for 2. Pass the turn. So when I was growing up, and I realized later, I think, that this was just a scare tactic to keep me and my brothers and sisters from wandering too far away. But definitely remember my mom telling me when I was a little kid that there was a lynx that lived in the woods near us, and had to be careful not to, wander too far away from the yard, or else, there's a lynx out there. Who knows what would happen? I never actually saw the lynx myself. So I'm still not sure if there was really a lynx, or if this was a way to keep us from wandering too far away. But yeah, that's my lynx experience. I don't even know if lynxes live in upstate New York. Is that even a thing? Is that even possible? It's like badgers. Do they even exist? Do badgers even exist? I've never seen one. And we all know that's how you determine what is true and what's not. Opponent gets back a bar. Oh, this might be some infinite combo action. Well, we will go to combat, do some attacking. How close are we to winning here? Opponent 60. Opponent 11. Well, we'll play a land. We will run out turn 4. Dragonhawk, 2 4+ power creatures. Pass the turn. Hey, what a start. What a start. Opponent's at 7. And I just don't think our opponent can play enough pieces to... Yeah, opponent scoops it up. So I imagine... I mean, yeah, our deck ran super well. So yes, very, very happy, Magic Gods. So I imagine that what our opponent is... Why can I not click on the graveyard? I feel like Arena is bugged right now and I can't expand the graveyard. But I imagine their Yagra combo, and the idea is if you can get Bart and a Yagra and a Camilla on the battlefield, you can sack a creature, which will cause Camilla to make a squirrel, which will be a food, which you can sack to trigger Camilla. Essentially, Yagra gets infinitely big, and if you have Scavenger's Talent, level up to level 2, you just mill someone out of the game. So I'm imagining maybe it's like that mixed with an Insidious Roots deck, but either way, that is, I think, the best game that we've seen with this deck. Brazen Collector turn 2, Lynx turn 3, Dragonhawk turn 4, pretty much just game over for Big Red. Big Red on a budget. In this hand, we're going to keep it. We're on the draw. We only got 2 lands, and we would like to hit more, but we have a decent amount of ramp in the deck, and we have some early game interaction, which is nice. Hopefully our opponent's playing some non-basics. Land of War Waste. Okay, that's a non-basic. That's good. Rubble Belt Maverick. All right, so opponent Starling Gorehound. Got to be playing a Insidious Roots deck. We'll see how this goes. Fountain Port. Okay, that's non-basic. That's good. That's good. Cachet Grab. Wow. All right, bunch of lands and a Bart. I assume they're well, they might need the land, actually. If they played Fountain Port here, that might mean they're missing. Yeah, missing their land drops. Well, play the Mountain, and yeah, I guess we just gonna pass. That is gonna be our opponent's 3rd non-basic, which is nice. Hits us. All right, I think we just let it go. And a second Maverick. Well, opponents actually, we haven't done any damage to them, and we're technically winning the damage race. Opponent mills a Miner. Well, we will play a land and run out the Furnace Punisher. Hit you for 2. Opponent. Oh, basic. Boo. Boo. We might be able to win just by curving out. Ooh, how bad is that for us? I get the Soul Cauldron. I do not know why I can't get this graveyard to pop up. And levels up. Opponent. Passing. Okay, so nothing of note ability-wise. I'll play the land. So if we attack, our opponent can exile a creature, put a counter, double block, get a food. I think we still attack, though. Go to combat. If our opponent wants to trade their board, I think we're fine with that. Opponent blocks and blocks. We can also kill one of the Mavericks, which is probably worth it. So I think we just, yeah, we'll just wait. We'll just blast, give you a treasure. Kill the Maverick. Opponent gets a food. Kill the Maverick. Play the Brazen Collector. I mean, we kind of want to keep the Furnace Punisher because it's going to keep dealing direct damage here. Opponent goes to 10. I feel like they're not super close to comboing off, but we'll see. Honest Rutstein. Yep. Opponent needs more than that, though, right? Like, that's not going to be enough. They're at 9. Forsaken Miner. Oh, another non-basic. Oh, this is going to be a very good Lynx. Acid. This can't block. Well, I mean, that's... Our opponent's tapped down, too, right? They have 1 treasure. All right, we're just going to go to combat. So our opponent can block with the Rutstein. Yeah. Kill the Brazen Borrower. I don't think this is going to matter, though, because our opponent drops to 6. And now we can play the Lynx. Furnace Punisher, 2 on your upkeep, and that looks like Xaxes to me. Pound it. Oh, Lynx is so good. Lynx is so good. Pass the turn. And they can't even, like, crack a food in response to gain life, because the Sunspine Lynx shuts down life gain, and, well, that is the beauty of Big Red on a budget. Sunspine Lynx finally seeing some 3... so I think it's going to be very interesting. I guess wrap-up time. Wrap-up time for this deck. It is going to be really interesting to see how the meta shakes out. Because I think, here's my impression after playing a bunch of games with this deck. The deck seems incredibly good against mid-rangey decks, against 3-color decks. Very, very, very powerful, where we just kind of stomp those decks. So those decks... Our matchup is so good. On the other hand, if we run into 1 or 2 color aggro decks, and we got to see this against like rabbits or against mice, where opponents got like some non-basics, but not a ton, and they're just like, I'm going to play a bunch of 1-drops and 2-drops and attack you a bunch. Those are the matchups where it gets hard, because our opponent can turn off Furnace Punisher. Our Lynx, rather than dealing 4 or 5 damage, is dealing like 1 or 2 damage. So I feel like how good this deck is going to be is really going to depend on what the post-rotation meta looks like. Like I said before, I feel like it would be so good in our pre-rotation meta, where we have like Esper Control, and we have Domain, and we have Temur Landcom. We have like all these 3-4 color decks that are being super greedy with their mana bases, and even a lot of the 2-color decks are playing like a small number of basics, like 4 or 5 basics. So I feel like it'd be really, really good in that like mid-rangey multicolor format we're coming out of. What does our new meta look like? We don't know though. If it's all these like 1 or 2 color aggro decks, this deck gets worse. If it's a lot of like 3-color mid-range decks like last standard, then the deck's really good. But impressions of the cards overall, Sunspine Lynx, the card was really great. And even when it was bad, it was still good enough. Like, I think that's why I'm so excited for Sunspine Lynx. Yes, when it's good, it's insane. But even when it's bad and it's dealing like 1 or 2 damage, it's still a 5/4. It still has a bunch of extra upsides. So very impressed with Lynx. Dragon Hawk was also really, really good. Usually can come down and exile 2 cards and just deal 4. So it's kind of like another Lynx is this weird big burn spell. And then if it lives and gets an attack, it does it again and hits for a bunch in the air. So that was also really impressive. Out of the new cards, the other one that deserves a shout out, well, obviously Blooming Blast, kind of busted. It won us some games all by itself. Really, really strong. Brazen Collector, though. This is the card I was on the fence about, and I wasn't sure, like, is this card going to be good enough? So the idea is, it's another 2-drop, kind of like Charming Scoundrel, or the Treasure from Grabby Giant, that can ramp us into our bigger plays a turn earlier. It does it in a weird way, because it has to attack, so I wasn't sure, is it going to jump attack too often? Like, how good is it really? But it turns out, it actually felt really good. It was very impressive against aggro, where just being a first striker lets it hold back a lot of creatures that otherwise it would be trading with, and our opponent would be fine with that. So that was one of the biggest upsides. It's actually like an oddly effective wall early against aggro, and then the extra mana when we snowball it, really powerful, where we had some games where just like turn 2 Lynx, turn 3 Lynx, turn 4 Dragonhawk, and just absolutely face rolled for the win. So all around, I like this deck. It felt really good. It's hard to really judge too much based on early access day. Like, the meta's weird. People are trying the new stuff. So we were right around 50% win rate, I think, like give or take. I don't put too much into the record though. I really want to see how the deck feels. And all around, the deck felt really solid. It's just going to be a matter of how does the meta shake out in our post-rotation Bloomburrow standard format. But I would say the early results on essentially all of our new cards in the deck, very, very good. They all felt very good. So anyway, that's Big Red. That's our first Bloomburrow standard budget magic. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.